Issue 14, Pet People and Their Trouble.
Our son, daughter-in-law, and grandson accepted our invitation for a Memorial Day cookout. They live about a 45-minute drive from our home. Our daughter-in-law somewhat reluctantly agreed to leave their dog home, knowing that my wife and I are not pet people. Memorial Day morning, she telephoned to say that she was sorry, but she just couldn't leave the dog alone all day. Then she said that the dog was a member of their family. She probably expected me to cave in and say, "Well, all right, bring the dog." Instead, I said, "I'm sorry you're not coming, but I understand your feelings. Perhaps another time." She said, "Well, goodbye," and then she hung up. Neither she nor my son has communicated with us since.
Comprehension. 1. What were the family going to do? 2. How far away does the son's family live? 3. Do the grandparents like pets? 4. Does the son's family like pets? 5. Why did the daughter-in-law telephone the grandparents? 6. Why haven't the son and daughter-in-law telephoned again?
Let's talk. One, who do you think was wrong? 2. Who do you think should break the silence first? 3. What do you think about people who take their pets to restaurants and supermarkets? 4. Having pets in an apartment is illegal. What do you think about that law? 5. People who complain about barking say dogs should be operated on to be made mute. What do you think about this idea? Is it too cruel? Who has greater rights, people or dogs? 6. Do you think eating dog meat should be understood as a dietary custom like any other, or as a barbarous habit that should be rooted out?
Opinion samples. 1. Who was right or wrong is unimportant. The writer has a right to ban pets from his home, and the daughter-in-law has the right to decline his invitation unless she can bring her dog. The important issue here is maintaining friendly relationships among family members. Question: do you think both parties have the same rights?
2. I understand the writer had a right to say no, but if the parents had said yes, they might have seemed more generous to their children and grandchildren, and there wouldn't have been any estrangement. The party was just for a few hours. If we want to have good relations with people, sometimes we have to endure some unpleasantness. Question: do you ever have to endure unpleasant things in order to maintain good relationships with other people? Give us an example. Issue 14, Pet People and Their Trouble.
Look at that silly person. He has to get up this early, bundle up to keep warm, and go outside every day just to walk his dog.
Yeah, and then he has to do the same thing again tonight.
He probably has to do this several times a day.
And even then, there's the inevitable mess occasionally. But even if the dog is perfectly housebroken, the place still smells like a dog. And there's hair everywhere. Nobody wants to visit such a home.
And he carries the dog around with him whenever he goes shopping. He puts that goofy little sweater on the dog and away they go. The dog doesn't even have to walk.
Actually, I feel sort of embarrassed for the dog's sake. No self-respecting dog would make himself look so ridiculous.
Well, I suppose that is better than having most of its fur cut off, having its ears dyed, or getting its tail bobbed.
You're right about that.
And he talks to and about the dog just as though it's a human being.
Dogs are dogs, not people. They are pets, not family members. Why can't they be treated that way?
People must be extremely lonely or socially maladjusted if they have to make friends with four-legged creatures.
Maybe it's the illusion of affection. Dogs never criticize anybody's actions. They bark and wag their tails when their owners come home. They lick their faces and show off for attention.
And if they are ignored, they don't file for divorce or leave home.
They certainly know where their meal ticket is.
A certain respect and appreciation for non-human life forms is a good trait. We should all work to prevent cruel, inhumane treatment of animals.
But that doesn't mean we should treat animals better than we treat other people.
I wonder what he thinks about eating dog. Do you suppose he thinks it's okay as long as we don't devour pets?
That's a good question, but I bet he hasn't really thought about it.
Maybe vegetarianism is a good idea. Perhaps we should stop killing animals for food. That seems pretty inhumane.
It would never work. Humans are, biologically, carnivorous. We need to eat meat.
No, we don't have to. Actually, we're not carnivorous. We're omnivorous. We can get all the nutrients we need from non-meat sources.
And I suppose you're against hunting too?
Of course I am. Talk about cruel.
It's no more cruel than raising animals for their eventual slaughter.
But those animals were never wild. It's always been their destiny to be butchered. And modern methods of dispatching them are very humane, so the beasts don't needlessly suffer. It's not like hunting them down and then ruthlessly exterminating them.
Most animals need to be culled, or they'll overrun their ecological niche. And then they'll face massive starvation. A swift killing is much better than slowly dying of hunger.
That's what they said about all those species of animals that have been hunted to extinction.
Most countries do a pretty good job of limiting hunting to strict quotas at only certain times of the year. More effort needs to be made on the issue of mass commercial fishing in particular, but effective management of wildlife is possible, I think. At least hunting and fishing are conducted to keep people from starving. It's not like trapping and beating animals to death just so their hides can be stripped off and made into fur coats for rich old women.
Now, wait a minute. These furs not only look great, but they keep us warm. We'd freeze without them.
Maybe at the poles, but most places are not cold enough to need them. And even there, modern synthetic materials are much more effective at retaining heat. The only excuse for the fur industry is human vanity.
Not any more vanity is involved than for some brave hunter to slaughter some defenseless beast with a high-powered automatic rifle, maybe from the air, just so he can hang a stuffed head on the wall.
Questions. 1. What is the pet lover criticized for? Give as many answers as you can. 2. Summarize the two attitudes about hunting. 3. Discuss the pros and cons of wearing furs.